Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 9th, 2023 at approximately 4:28 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide, because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally work with in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. So this is not a question of here's an idea of how you might, of how things may work. These are tools that if they apply to me, I'm putting to work. Now, before I go any further, as has become apparent, today is an open topic. Okay, whatever comes up is what comes up. Okay, now, with that in mind, if you've got a question, even if it is not on the topic that we're talking about at the moment, please put your questions or your comments in all caps. That way I can find them. This is not a question of yelling. This is a question of waving your hand to let you know. Now, right off the bat, we have Dogface in with the gold. Henry's come in with the silver. And Eternity has come straight in with the bronze. So, welcome aboard, guys. Hope your days have been going well. To say the least, as per usual, it's been a little bit of a scattered day, but I will tell you, technology has been a royal pain. My computer decided that, and I think it was actually the company that I bought it from that was responsible. But I bought an office program. I bought a lifetime license that was never to be updated because it was never going on the net. Well, somehow the computer has decided that my program was only a year long and it's now an unlicensed system. To say the least, this does not make me happy. Okay, that's where it starts. Now, Dogface, I just was looking at this. Testing a boot with a lawnmower, I will give you this. You now know it's perfectly safe. This does not mean running over your feet is a good idea. Although it does beg the question of how you manage to do it. I know it can get done, that it can be done. I knew a friend of mine actually ran over themselves with their own vehicle. They were in the vehicle and fell out. Mr. L, we are in with honorable mention. How you doing? An old friend of mine fell out of their car and subsequently ran over themselves. Ended up in a hospital with a broken leg. Of course, they were using a panel van to run over themselves, so, nicely done, if you will. Now, one of the things that I do look at here, Grandmaster, how you doing? Welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. The reality is I don't plan today because I just got finished gaming about an hour ago. What do we got? New mower, much lighter than the old one. Yeah, I don't doubt that. Some of the new ones, lighter is sometimes better, sometimes not. Depends. What have I got going on here? The reality is when you've got something you're working on, what do we got? Henry's just started off with a really good question. How small can life get and still have a soul? Insects, mites, bacteria, protozoa, etc. How about subquantum? Okay, now I don't know what the term would be for smaller than that. Okay, but life is not relegated to size. Life basically boils down to behaving in a fashion, in a free-flowing fashion, if you will, with its own ability to make its own mind up. This does not mean that it will necessarily think like a human. That's just the reality behind it. So no, we don't actually have a lifetime, a size that you have to worry about. The soul, to be clear, the soul itself is the best estimation I ever got for it, for the size of the soul itself, is approximately 30 feet in diameter by Terran measurement. Okay. Now, that being said, all it basically does, if you will, if you want to look at it that way, the soul sort of works like a remote control. Okay. Where it puts part of its life in, and part of its operating into that particular entity to experience it. Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. Life itself, it starts off at an extremely small level. Okay. And it really doesn't have a size limit. Neither does it have the largest size it can be. Okay. You take a look at the Archon. The Archon starts off as a tiny little subquantum entity and starts growing from there. Eventually, it gets to be bigger than a planet. Okay, so this may give you an idea of the variation in size requirements, or size availability, if you will. Oh, that is terrible, Chad. What do we got here? Yeah, and Chad's just going, both RC trucks are still down, but the Crawler Bronco got new wheels and tires today. That's fabulous. Okay, now you just got to break it back in. That's the one thing I haven't gotten into, but when and I'm not about to, we're talking mechanical here. So the odds of my doing anything with it, not good. But yes, I did pick up new figures and what have you. This is just one of them. I'll be working on this one a little today. But this is just a nasty little critter. I like the look of it, so I picked it up. Now, where are we looking? We have, I think I've got another black already operational. There it is. Nope, that's blue. That is not what I require. Black. What do I want here? That. So what we do is we grab this, and like I said, this is the question of puttering around and doing things while I'm at it. So, we got that, and we're going to go with this one. Should work nicely. Where did my eyeballs go? Okay, so what we do to get things moving, again, this really boils down to, this is just one of the ways that I operate things. Okay. Hopefully delivery will come along nicely. Now I've got to get, what am I going to work with here? Okay, don't know what to call it yet, but now we need the office sorted out. This is just, what I'm doing here is just getting a couple things listed down to ensure listed down of goals that I've got to deal with today that I'm going to be working on here, as well as making certain I've got a pad in case questions come up that I can work with. Now, that said, this shouldn't take, this particular type of painting is not a real big issue. I just can't see very well for the most part if I don't actually pay attention to it. So I'm just taking this particular figure, and with a little bit of luck, I'll get the better portion of it done today. It's just I like this one, And it gave me an idea on some of the things I could work with. So now it's just a question of going, okay, this is the paint color that I'm working. And like I said, we're dealing with black, okay, for the primary. Now, I've already got colors worked out for the flesh tone, for the flesh tone I'll be working with, and for for the horns. But what I'm doing with this particular critter, because I've started another book, I've started writing another one, in spite of the fact that I've got everything on the go, I just kind of got carried away with it, came up with an idea and started putting it to work, which I will get into a little bit later. It's not like I didn't have enough things writing. So right now, this particular creature, whatever, I haven't figured out what kind of a name I'm going to give it. I have figured out its history, okay, and how it's going to go. Still trying to figure out if this ends up matching anything. The thing is, what I've found with many of the races I run into, and this is where it gets very screwy. iVoices is asking, Keith, does Satan ever fully manifest as a regular looking human? The best way I can put it is she does influence people, but here's where you got to remember. And this is one of the biggest things that you got to look at if you want to see if it's actually Satan's influence. Okay. Take a look at whatever is being said, whatever is being promised. Never mind whether it's loopy, never mind whether it's really badly set up. Okay, where it's really badly, angled in favor of her. Okay. Take a look at what the contract says and ask yourself, the person that is offering the contract, whether it's lopsided in their favor or not, are they following through with the letter of what they agreed to? If they are not, they're not influenced by Satan. Okay, they're just simply self-centered and self-serving. Because if they were influenced by Satan, the answer to your question, does she ever actually manifest completely? No. Not that I've ever heard in the last time I heard of her showing up was probably 20,000 years ago, maybe more. Okay, I really wasn't paying much attention to the time frame. Okay, now, time is a little screwy anyway. Especially when you consider some of what's been being said. Okay, but the last time that she showed up in full form wasn't actually as a human, come to think of it. I don't think she's ever actually manifested as a full human. She certainly had her fingers in the cookie jar on a number of fronts. Anywhere where somebody stands to make a real big profit, or a real big, and profit, by the way, does not necessarily mean a monetary growth. Okay, profit simply boils down to getting ahead, getting further ahead than what they were to start with. But if they are truly being influenced and guided, as they claim, by Satan, okay, then what you have to realize is whatever they are agreeing to, they will follow through with. Okay, they will not double back on the contract. They will not turn around and they will not make you a promise that this will happen and then not follow through with it. Okay, that's one of the biggest things you look at. Now, do understand, not everybody that is being honest, as a matter of fact, only a very few people being honest are actually following Satan's work or Satan's guideline. Honestly, the funny thing is, everybody talks about Satan being such a deceptive individual. The reality behind it is she's not. She's straightforward. I'm going to put, she'll tell you, I will grant you that, I will do this for you. She'll leave out the critical issues. It was a prime example when you take a look at the show Ghost Rider. When Satan came to go, well, that was actually Mephistopheles. But, when Satan goes, I'm going to, I will grant you this. I will do this for you. And all it's going to cost you is your soul. Okay, be aware. There's a loophole there. She won't tell you what she's going to do to screw it up. But she will make absolutely certain that she follows through with what she tells you. But I do not recall her ever showing up on Earth manifesting as a full human. Okay. From her standpoint, I suspect it's a little too limiting. So no, in all fairness, I really don't get the feeling she's ever done it. Not that I'm aware of anyway. This doesn't mean she won't. But you got to remember, what Satan came down for in the first place was to remind people and to guide people into the concept that if you give your word on something, you're going to do everything in your power to make it happen. Okay, this is not just a convenience thing. This is a way of life for them. Okay. So from your standpoint, does she manifest full human? No. The energy levels that she's got, technically she could. Okay. But everything I've ever seen says she doesn't bother going into that side of it. Okay, there was an agreement made many, many, many millennia back where she would not, after she made her run at it, she did a pretty good job. There were a couple of times when she did have direct influence. Okay, where it worked out really well. Not the least of which was this whole concept of coming in with the Black Plague. Give people, and the whole concept there, in all fairness, the Black Death, was an issue of making absolutely certain people had a common threat. Maybe put the differences aside and learn to follow through with what they were saying. Okay, this is ultimately what the Black Death was about. No, it was not a manipulation thing. It was an issue of giving people a common goal. Okay. Now, even if we look back, and I forget what year it was, but Ronald Reagan made the comment that maybe what we require is a common threat from outer space. What humans require is to pull their head out of the sand and realize you're all the same race. You're all the same species. And it literally boils down to everybody's got talents. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. But the Black Death, you'll notice, didn't check on who was voting for who, didn't check on who was sleeping with who, on who called who, Satan, God, Jesus, whatever. The Black Death there was no discrimination there. Okay, and that's the first thing you got to realize is she was here to remind people that prejudice doesn't work. It just doesn't work that well. Unfortunately, mankind has not quite figured that out, it would seem. So hopefully that makes sense. But no, the thing we got to remember is Satan's methods are extremely direct, okay, very much upfront, and very brutal. Okay, you don't actually want her coming down to sort things out. Even the people that worship her do not want her coming down. Okay. I mean, basically, she's grumpier than a dwarf without alcohol. That's just the reality behind it. Now, you'll note, like I said, it was not going to take long to get this part done. No, things get real screwy on that side of it. What we have to remember, okay, is that mankind has the capacity to really turn things around and make this a much better world. But it is up to you guys to do it. Now, I've turned things a little bit sideways for myself in order to get things organized, in order to get things happening in the way I desire them to happen. Okay. And that's what's going on here. I picked up a new critter. Neat part about it is I know what this one's all about. What I haven't quite figured out is whether I was pulled to this particular critter because of its appearance or because I've seen something else like it. And therein lies the real question. Okay. Therein lies the real question. Because I've been asked, if I'm just making up the races, or if I was asked the other day actually, whether what I'm writing is about what I've actually seen, or is it just simply my imagination getting right out of hand? And I tell you, sometimes I debate it, but here's the thing. I come up with I start detailing the information on somebody, on a new race. And no sooner do I start doing that than other people start coming along and going, "Oh, I've seen that before," and corroborating what I've already put out. Now, yes, I've done the whole psychological analysis thing. Is it possible that what I'm putting out is triggering some of this? Certainly. That's why I don't go and that's why I don't say, "Look, I'm absolutely the best source of information." I'm not. But I do seem to be one of the few that is focused on the idea of we are not in danger of being overrun, of being conquered, ruled, and coerced into living life to somebody else's tools, to somebody else's dance tune. Okay. For me, it really boils down to a simple issue of these are the creatures that I'm looking at. Now, this particular one, okay, lives in a very dark environment. Okay. I do suspect, and once I get the major painting done here, which, by the way, just about done with, because I'm not going to be able to do the other part of the arm until it dries a little. But I keep getting asked by people, well, how do we know? Like, I mean, it still bothers me, obviously, or I wouldn't bring it up. But this issue that somebody the other day piped up and said they know more than I do. I have no doubt there is a staggering number of you out there that know more than what I do. Okay. I just have one little thing from my end. Okay. I'm not about to look at it and go, all of these people are bad. Okay. This particular little munchkin here, in case you didn't realize it, and what I'm getting told is it is a really good rendition. I'd love to know where these guys come up with these ideas. Okay. By the way, this particular critter is not a this is not a demon or a daemon. Okay. This particular critter seems to be at least in appearance, connected as it were to the abominable snowman, except for if you take a look at it, okay, you take a look at the head of this thing. Okay, it's clearly got horns. Okay, not a nice little critter. That much is obvious. Okay, and yet I would tell you this: much as it has an extremely violent visage to it, I will tell you from everything I'm picking up around it. Like I said, I pick these things up because they catch my attention, usually because of a past life memory. This is one of the things that really got me started. And of course, it tied it together, not only with it being possible past lives, but with the writing I'm doing, characters come to light that are characters or creatures come to light that are absolutely perfectly set. Okay, this particular critter is going to be operating out of the dark. Okay, and I've got another one to show you here in a little bit. Okay, I've got another critter that is from an interesting world. Okay, and no, I haven't got a name for it, but do understand, and I know somebody out there is going to be looking at this, going, "Oh, you're just making this up as you go along." Heck, take a look at the English language. The English language is actually made up out of a number of different words. But what do we got here? Yeah, today was, to say the least, annoying when we found out where it is. There it is. Don't think I'll do that. When we take a look at belief structures around the world, most belief structures. Hey, where are we? Oh, there we are. Oh, that's what I should be doing here. Now. Oh, apparently I closed it, so let's open it up so I can find it. And we go desktop there. We go all the way down here. Look way down. And Chad. This is the link to Chad's channel. Whoop, do not want to do that. We want to go copy. Perfect. Now, minimize that, and then we go. Now, this is Chad's channel right here. Okay. So, when you get the opportunity, and by the way, Grandmaster, Happy Easter. Many people don't worship and don't celebrate Easter. I've always looked at it a little backwards. You're celebrating the time that a man that was world renowned, at least for the world that he was operating in, was world renowned for his kindness. And we're going to celebrate his death instead of his life, which is really kind of a fascinating idea. So what I am looking at here, that's going to dry out, so we'll put that in there. Okay. Like I said, this is a question of making certain that while I'm talking about things that we have to clear out of the way, I get them dealt with and moved into the right places. Oh, there we go. iVoices is just asking, why do some spirits emit smells of sulfur or something rotten? Well, the reality of it there, and I'll get to that in 5 seconds. Kira, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Sometimes what happens, depending on the spirit, some of them come through smelling like sulfur or smelling like something rotting. Some come through because of choice. Some because they really didn't understand. They didn't take the time to figure it out. And of course, if you're coming from the place of a rotting corpse, guess what you're going to smell like? Okay, that's where you get a lot of it. Okay, sometimes it's a question of it's a familiar smell. Like, for instance, if the person coming back through was working in a natural gas plant, okay, where they add sulfur to the gas in order to ensure that you pick up the smell. Okay, sometimes they do it quite intentionally to make sure that you get the message, that they are there. But before anybody jumps on it, oh yeah, we will go there. The other option, as I've mentioned before, what is hell. The river Styx, the burning rivers, the really, really way too hot hot tubs. Okay, they do smell like they are coated in sulfur. Okay, and sometimes when somebody finally figures out they don't have to stay there, when they come out, they bring the scent with them. Okay, also it depends on what door they're coming through. Oh, look at that. It depends on where they're coming from. If you're coming out of a place that smells like sulfur or smells like death, then the odds are you're bringing the smell with you. Okay. But does this by in and of itself, does it in and of itself mean that they went to hell or that they were evil people? No. Now, Kira's just bringing us a neat little piece of information. Interesting connection to why we have bunnies on Easter. The pagan holiday, Yldrbac, had a female deity who was represented as a rabbit, and just maybe dropping colored eggs were akin to fertility. That's actually not a bad reason. Okay, as we all know, virtually every holiday, has some sort of definitive reason behind it or a part of fact. Okay, people have told me that that Yeshua didn't exist. Okay, well, and I'm not going to try and prove whether the Easter Bunny exists. I will tell you ever corner an Easter Bunny, the poor little things do bark. You get them panicked and cornered, they will bark. Okay, it's a really weird setup when you find out that side of it. Okay, but no, that's an interesting little piece. Of course, I haven't looked into all the different deities, but I did come across, I was just informed the other day. Okay, the other day being just yesterday, that there is another race I have to deal with, and I don't know if I picked any up. Let me just see what I picked up over here. Nope. Gonna have to do that one too. See, I'm picking up different races and what have you that I need to. I'll show you that one in a minute. This one caught my attention because I have seen this one before. Okay. I even know where it comes from. Okay. Which will be added. I'll show you that in just 10 seconds. Question is, what color do I want to deal with there? Okay, that answered that. Yeah, I know I didn't say anything. Look, where did blue go? We require blue, not Pacific, cobalt. That can go back there. Oh, whole pile of them there. We'll get to those in a little bit. But Every holiday that I know that I've ever heard of has some sort, has some sort of a basis behind it. Okay. Now, here's a neat little critter. Okay. It's just another one of the ones I'm working on. This little monstrosity. No, I don't have a name for it yet, but I will come to that as I go along. But this one actually comes in at a very interesting place. Now, here's the neat thing. It is not, like the fur on it is not brown. Okay, and you'll get to see that momentarily here. Because I've already got it, as I believe it was Michelangelo that said it. Okay, when he turned around, he was asked, how do you carve such incredible sculptures out of a single block of marble? And all he said, he just looked at the guy and he says the sculpture was already there. I just knocked away what was part of it, to reveal the actual sculpture. Well, all I'm doing here essentially is a paint by number. Okay, in other words, this particular creature, okay, and all I'm doing is taking the colors that I already see on it and filling in the blanks, which for me works out rather nicely. For you, I don't know. But this is one of those neat little things. This is why I call it open. Okay. Let's not make that mess, shall we? Whoop, I just saw that. Where'd my eyeballs go? Okay, what do we got here? Oh, okay, Henry. I obviously missed that. And thank you so much for bringing that. Let me go back up here and see what you asked. Because I don't like missing them. It just happens. Henry, I didn't miss that question. Okay, you're referring to the one about how small life can be and still have a soul. The answer is, quite frankly, smaller than subquantum. I just don't know how small, what label to put on that just yet. But there is no minimum life size. Okay, and the reason for that is because the soul only uses part of its ability to actually operate the physical body. But there is no actual minimal size or maximum size for life to take place in. Okay, it literally is one of these things that whatever life size you desire, that's the one you can that your soul can manifest. Okay, you just have to remember that what you get what you choose will be what you're in until you die. And I have run into people that have said they're not from Earth, they're completely alien, and yet they are living inside a physical human body. And the reality there is where your memory comes from is debatable. Okay, that's up to you. I'm not one to say whether you are or not. But I will tell you, while you're stuck in a physical human body, if that's not the question, how far up was it? Because I just scanned up and only saw the one. But yeah, Henry, if you want to list it off again, that'd be great. What do I got here? Because I've gone all the way to the top. And the only question I've seen here from you is how small can life get and still have a soul? And I'm scanning down, and honestly, Henry, I don't see another one. But absolutely post it and restate it. That'd be really appreciated. I am doing my best to follow it. But this is why, and I know you do this, Henry, which is why it makes it so much easier. What? No, the other one. Yeah, I've only got the one listed here. Now, why? That I don't know. Oh, no, that was iVoices. Yeah, no, I've only got the one question from you that showed up here. Now, the way technology has been working for me today, that's not entirely a surprise. Okay. I appreciate the confirmation there, Dogface. Or corroboration, take your pick. But yeah, Henry, I will absolutely. I'm keeping an eye open to see the question come back up, because every question deserves to be answered, if at all possible. Well, almost every question. There are some that people have asked me. I'll just flat out say I'm not answering. But in your case, this is not usually the case. So what do I got here? This is why I say it just amazes me how much Dave can keep tabs on. There, that one I never saw. Can inanimate objects have a soul? Not exactly. And now that depends on your definition of inanimate. Okay. A chair in and of itself, when it's made from another living organism, okay, very, very, very seldom do they have a soul. Now, what you might find with some inanimate objects is that a soul will connect itself to it and call them, thereby take up residence. Okay, that does happen, but does the soul actually start out, or is an inanimate object, a construct like a bookcase, a chair, a rug, are these usually with a soul? No, but they can be imbued with ability. Okay, a soul can absolutely, or a person can absolutely imbue a physical object, a physical construct, if you will, as some form of a totem or a focus to make it into something and to get it to hold a lot more power. For instance, you take a look at, and I'm going to refer to the comics because, frankly, they work for explanation purposes. Okay, but you take a look at the cloak of levitation that Doctor Strange uses. That does not have a soul, but it does have a certain amount of power put to it. Okay. And then, of course, that begs the question of how does it react the way it does? Well, that's because when you're imbuing a physical object with energy, you can program it to work in certain fashions. John, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Well, ultimately, you are correct. Okay. The reality of it there, Henry, yes, everything absolutely is connected. Okay. The limit I run into is this. I've never personally run into a physical object that had a soul in place. That in and of itself was sporting a soul. Now, like I have said, I am not the only one in existence. Okay. And therefore, do I know everything going on? No. But I've personally never seen that happen. And when I mean never, I mean literally my entire soul's life. My soul's life is a sheepload older than I am. But you are correct. Theoretically, it could. Okay. The difficult part, of course, is deciding whether or not you're going to go down that road and go that, I'm going to stand on the ground and say it absolutely is. I've never run into it, so I cannot, or more to the point, will not back it up and say absolutely it does. Okay. I do know that souls will inhabit And I do mean that literally. And they will temporarily rent out a space. I'll show you one, for example, this one. Okay. Let me just put that down. This little monster here. Okay. And this is just plastic, so let's not get twisted, shall we? This little object here, it is a replica of a human skull. Now minus the bottom mandible. When I got it, there was a spirit that had come to me. And I told her flat out it was an old flame of mine from way back in the early 1900s. Okay. And when she showed up, I told her, I says, yeah, absolutely, make yourself at home. You hear? Take up residence. So she did not, the soul of the skull itself was not, she wasn't tied to it so much as she chose to live there when she wasn't out and about. Now, of course, the reality of it is anybody can choose a place to live. Not everybody has a physical house. Okay, there's people on the street that, frankly, there are people on the street that live in a cardboard box. Not my idea of a good time, probably not their idea of a good time. That said, Henry, Adam, the problem there, I take it the chap that used to own the truck. I just got filling gaps here. The truck that Adam is currently driving. Okay. Did he die while he was still employed by the people that he was running the truck for? Okay. That's the first thing you look at. Was he still attached to that truck? Like, was that where he lived, as it were? If so, what you might be dealing with is not so much the soul of the truck having a soul, so much as him being very much attached to said truck and not ready to let go just yet. Okay, that can be your bigger problem right there. If that makes any sense. But no, something that you can do when you've got a spirit that is locked on board, okay, you really need to talk to somebody or do it yourself. In this case, Adam's got to do it himself and really release the energy of the person that was using that truck. It becomes a little more complicated if the person actually died in the truck. I don't mean in a car accident. I mean, let's say he was driving and had a heart attack. Quite often they will grab onto the first thing possible, and that can create problems on the leftovers. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's not a question of the truck having the soul so much as the truck being still occupied by the driver. Okay, it boils down to hanging on to the past, and that's what this guy apparently needs to have happen, is to figure out how to let go of his old life so he can move on. Because I'll tell you, the chap that recently died, if he doesn't let go of this world, moving on to the next one. Oh, not a problem, Henry. Do understand something, and this applies to everybody out there. Okay, when I said this is open, okay, this means there is no question of, are you filling up the chat? I will get a little, if you will, testy if you're filling up the chat with trying to convince me that, like, there are certain patterns that people have tried convincing me of, and I'm like, don't. Okay, what you're doing is looking for an answer to a question that I cannot tell you how many people have that same question. How many people look at that and go, but I'm having these problems. Is there an explanation for it? Okay. It might be an idea. Okay, and it really depends on the people involved. In this case, it depends on Adam. Okay, but having an extra funeral for the gentleman involved just to say farewell and thank him for the truck itself, and just remind the guy that the time for him on this planet is finished. It's time to set up his next life. Because in all fairness, he died by cancer, especially if he died and felt that he hadn't finished what he was aiming for. It's going to hold him here. Okay. And it's just one of those things that we can work with, but we've got to make certain that we kind of realize that the dead are not always, the thing is, death is not the end of the road. Okay, it is simply another step. This is where people run into a lot of troubles. Okay, I think we'll put that down before I get my fingers all covered in paint. But see, all fur is not going to be black. Okay, I know exactly where this guy comes from. Okay, and yes, there are creatures that you will be seeing. See, the funny thing with Race of the Worlds is all of the races are not humanoid. I have relegated, I've put a lot of, there's a lot of creatures that I've seen, a lot of entities I've seen that have a different form. Okay, and most people just don't realize it. But what I'm looking to do, and this is one of the reasons that I've been pushing for things. Whoop, don't need that. Take that and put that up there. That's just water I'm putting that into, by the way. Let's not drop that on the floor, shall we? What do we got here? The funny thing is, people where it comes to cancer, people talk about cancer being a new disease. It's just recently come to light. Absolutely, Kara. Thank you so much for dropping in. We'll be here for a while yet. I cannot believe how fast that went. We're not done by any functional stretch. But absolutely, people, I'll just pop this in there. If you do like the stream, do make sure you give us a thumbs up. And absolutely, if you haven't done so already, do subscribe to the channel and then share the daylights out of it. Cindy, how you doing? As long as late, I can work with it. And you're welcome anyway. Okay. I'm very happy that you managed to get here. Hopefully things have just been hectic for you today. And they didn't go sour, if you will. That's my black. What do we got here? Not quite dry enough for what I'm looking for here, because I'm also, obviously I'm also painting some of the new figures that I got. Is that dry? Yep. Okay, so we'll dig out a little more black then. We just might, at this rate, get this particular creature finished before the end of the night. It's just one of those neat little issues of taking a look at things and going, okay, how are we going to work with this? Because I've got a lot that I'm working on. But, the fact you showed up a little late, thanks so much for that extra reminder there, Kira. I do appreciate it. We're sitting at 479. I've got, that said, 521 I'd like to make before the end of the year. Okay, and time will tell whether I manage to do that. But it's really taken a little bit of an issue of going, okay, how do we get people to really look forward to their life, to get really excited about your life? Okay, instead of this idea of really worried about the world coming to an end. Because I will tell you, the world will come to an end. There's no question there. No functional question anyway. Okay, but what I would love to do is find people absolutely come away from the channel, from this particular stream, going, hey, I finally got things moving in the right direction and my life is finally starting to make sense to me. Now, you'll notice I said make sense to me, as in to you, because your life does not have to make sense to anybody else. You know, now, how would you like to see this particular critter show up, in your neighborhood? People worry about it, and I should have brought a character. Oh, I've got one over there. But I'm going to finish getting these parts done first. The reality of it is, I would love to see people come away from this chat room feeling really excited and really happy and energetic, re-energized, if you will, towards your own life, one way or the other. Okay, what do we got? Sydney's just asking, do you really think do you think we will even know when it ends? That depends on what it is. Presumably you're referring to when the world ends. Okay. If that's not what you're referring to, let me know. But most of the people here, never mind most, the human body is not exactly geared with its current level of interaction. It's not exactly geared to last a few trillion years. That said, the souls that are here may well be. I know in my case, I will be here when it comes to a close. The thing is, most of us know when our own life is winding down. And of course, the problem there is most of us are taught to fear said wind down. Which is a shame. I always look at death, and of course, in my case, I've looked at it for a long time from the receiving end. But I look at death going, it can be, okay. Yeah, I'm just catching up here, Cindy. Where it comes to the end, as the end of life as we know it, the end of the world as we know it. I believe that was a song way back. Some of the souls that are here now will know when it comes to an end. The human body, the people that are here in human form, no, they won't know. Okay. Now, will there be natural disasters? Will there be man-made disasters before that end comes? The answer is yeah, absolutely there will. Some of them coming up in the not-too-distant future. Okay, but does that mean we are relegated to live in fear of the world, the world ending? This is the one thing that I do not quite understand. We have a world that is alive today, alive and well. Okay, and we have the opportunity to thoroughly enjoy the interaction with it. And yet, so many people are caught up in the idea of how bad this world is going to be, of how bad, how much of a shortage, how much famine, war, raising taxes, lack of property, the whole 9 yards. Here's a little acknowledged fact. Okay. And yes, I deliberately called it a fact. We talk about about us running out of room. Problem is not that mankind is running out of room. 50,000 years ago, okay, when I was here 50,000 years ago, we had over 10 billion people on the planet. Okay, well over 10. I really did not bother counting. Okay, but it was here. We had that many here. There was no food shortage. There was no famine. There was no fear. There was no greed. There was no war. Okay, was there fear? Yep. Sad to say, fear is kind of a necessity in life. See, if you don't have things that make you edgy, you won't know the thing. You won't recognize the ones that make you feel better. That's just the reality behind it. So what we have to look at is, are people going to know when the world's going to end? No, they won't. Okay, well, you might. Let's assume that you're still living here when our primary sun goes supernova. Okay, you'll see a quick flash in the sky, or you may see a quick flash in the sky. 8 minutes later, you'll be dead. So technically, you may see it happen. I wouldn't hold my breath. Because, like I said, most of you won't make it out of this century. Some of your kids will make it out of this century. But since the Earth is not, if you will, slated for termination for several trillion years, from what I gather, okay, the odds of you actually seeing it happen are not good. But you may well show up and see it happen in another life, with you in another life form. That ultimately is what you're looking at. Look at that, making decent headway here. See, now he started off straight color. We will be doing more of him as he dries out. As he dries a little more, so I can actually get things done. Because I need him to dry in order to get the other parts painted. And that apparently isn't going to work well. So we take that, put him up there for a minute, and grab my black back. But yeah, most people are not going to see it happen. Most people, in all fairness. Okay. Technically, the answer is yes. Okay. Now, do understand what I mean by that. And do I still have that sheet around here? I think I might have put it on disk, and I don't want to open that up yet. I'm just looking to see if my notes are right here. That is a character that I've got to move. I'm just looking the notes to see, because I think it should be in this stuff. But I was moving stuff around. The answer to your question, the 4 horsemen, as in death, famine, pestilence, and hunger. No, that's famine. And war. Are they real? The answer is yes. Quite frankly, they are. But that being said, their counterparts are also real. And this is why I keep this sheet, so I can make sure I make the right notes as things come back to mind. I've actually got this listed out. And before anybody jumps on that, no, they are not of a specific race. It's more of a job title. Okay. But you have war, you have death. And the funny part of it is this is not the only ones, but these are the main ones. Okay. You have famine and you have pestilence. Oddly enough, they tend to work together. Okay. You think about it. When you think about it, death is facilitated by famine, by pestilence, by death, and by war. Okay. So, yes. But these are titles. Okay. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Okay. But on top of that, the other 4, okay, are peace. We have peace. We have life. We have bounty. And we have cleanliness. Okay. The neat little part about it, okay, is these 8. Okay. These 8 horses run together. Okay. It just depends on who you're paying attention to. Okay. So far it's been going well enough there, Shadow. But yeah, the 4 horsemen are they are a real thing, but they're titles. They're not, so to speak, individuals. And yes, that said, Has death been replaced multiple times? The answer is yes. Okay. There have been many people that have held that position. Same as there have been many people that have turned around and filled the position of the ferryman. Okay. And again, in addition to that, they are not relegated to, death has to be male or the ferryman has to be male. Okay. This is an issue of whatever gender you are. Okay. And you'll notice I said whatever gender you are, not whatever gender you relate to. Okay. And yes, I know that'll tick somebody off, and I'm just not overly worried about it. Because the reality of it is this. Okay. I look at it this way. There are certain rules I've had to absolutely come to terms with where it comes to what's going on, especially in here. Like you guys in here are really inspiring from my standpoint. The amount of times I see you guys reaching out to help each other is just absolutely amazing. And I would love to see that continue. Every once in a while, we will get what we used to, and I know Shadow knows this term, but every once in a while, you'll get what we call a poison pill coming into the building, coming into the room. And, I look at it going, do we really need that kind of an annoyance? Everybody is entitled to their own outlook, to their own truth. Okay. What nobody is entitled to, everybody has free will. Everybody has freedom of choice. Okay. What you don't have freedom from is consequence. So I mean, all in all, things are can be a little interesting, but it boils down to deciding how you want to look at it. Now, myself, I've come to know death and death herself rather well. Okay, at least one of them. Bear in mind, it's not just one entity that comes to collect the dead. Okay, there's a whole bunch of them. Because, well, let's face it, even for death, for famine, the famine is kind of a fire and forget. Let's wipe out the crops in this area. Let's stop the rain here so the crop will die. Okay, this is something that famine does as he's going by. Okay, when we take a look at war, okay, war is very, very much tied to the ego. In other words, whenever somebody gets upset, you end up with war coming along and fanning the flames, if you will, going, hey, if you do this, you can actually get your revenge and you'll feel a lot better. The ironic part is, even for the people that start wars, and that tell everybody to go to war, even for those people, getting the war underway does not bring the peace they're hoping for. Okay, now, as you can see, it started off white, we're making headway. Now we'll leave him dry for a bit and go back to the other side of it. And yeah, I've got what's happening here is I bought a cup of water up top here to soak things in. And that's just going to annoy me. I'm just getting a little bit of kind of a airflow here. But no, that's a couple of figures I'm working on there. Okay, I figured it worked out well. I put my eyeballs down. Okay, what do we got here? Yeah, I don't doubt that. Sadly, there, Shadow, I ended up, well, today, when did I get up? I think it's like the end of the day, sort of. Today, 9. Yeah, today's the 9th. When did I go to bed? Yeah, so I went to bed at 11 last night. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. Now, that is not, that is not what you should be gauging your time frame on. The fact that I sleep minimal does not really add up to a whole lot. Okay, it's not a pace to be matched. The fact of the matter is, I figured it out years ago, and I probably shouldn't have it looking back on, 2020 hindsight sort of thing. Okay, but I figured it out. I was bored one day, and I looked at it. Most people talk to me, Derek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Easter has been, well, shall we say, interesting. And DD74, I did not see you come in. My apologies, but welcome aboard. No, I figured it out. People kept talking about requiring 8 hours of sleep. And so I looked at it and went, well, if you don't lose quality of life, okay, what would happen if you cut your sleep back to 4 hours? Now, it was just meant as a curiosity thing. Okay. I was just planning on it as a curiosity thing. I figured it out. And if you cut your sleep down to 4 hours a day or 4 hours a night, but you don't lose quality of life, your health stays the same, you still got a stable mood, your energy levels are still decent, you gain a month and a half living time in the course of 1 year. Okay, now don't take my word for it. Do the math yourself. Okay, now who was it that asked about that? Just make sure you drive safe there, Derek. The reality there, Cindy, is if you can, I didn't actually see the news clip, but if you can give me a brief rendition of what the ship looked like, I may be able to tell you. Because I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in 15 years. I got fed up with it, so I just don't. But if you can give me a basic description of what the ship looks like, I can quite possibly identify it for you. Who was it? Horseman. Where are we? No, it was after that. There we are. iVoices. If you're still in the house, if you're still in the room, one thing I am I'm actively looking into now is to find horses that I can paint, okay, to represent the 8 horsemen. Because you've got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the 4 horsemen of the rebirth. Okay. And that's rebirth, not afterbirth. Okay. Where are we? Whoop, go back down here. Okay, thanks, Cindy. I will keep an eye open for it. And if you can give me even a basic description, I may well be able to identify it. I actually put a database together now that I'm working on to that end. Now, are you dry yet? Yep. That's black. That can go there. The reality, if you're referring to just the 4, okay, if we're talking about the 4 horsemen, okay, I would have to say, if I were to pick a favorite, and I don't really have one, but I think the one that is the least, shall we say, complicated would be Death herself. Okay, but do understand, I'm one of these really weird people that doesn't fear death at all. Okay, I don't see the point in fearing death. It never got me very far. Well, it got me to the morgue one day. That was close enough. You know, where are we here? Well, that didn't work with a hoot. I will tell you guys, if you're using a paintbrush and the top comes off, the paintbrush is shot. Okay. That's why I just buy the really inexpensive ones. Now we take this little critter here. And I will get back to this one. This funny little one is actually another race. And yes, this thing you'll notice. Whoop, can't see. Okay. You'll notice it's got 6 arms. Okay. It's not the only race on its planet that has 6 arms. So what do we do here? But no, for me, the reason that death is sort of the one that I look at and go, I can work with that, is because it affects everybody without any concern. Okay. Okay. Cindy's just bringing back in. Oh, there we go. Ah. Whoa, that was wrong. I believe, and that file I should have brought up, I believe that is the Talons. I think I know the one. I may have seen a catch on it on Facebook. Let me just see. I want to open up a file. Minimize that and minimize that. And where is row research? That should be the one I need. So we take that and we'll move that up there because I don't need that one. I just want to be able to see what I'm doing. That goes there. Okay. Now we are looking for orb. Nope, not the Talon. My apologies. So where are we looking here? We are definitely looking for orb. That's the 5/8. Those are little guys. Okay, find it the easy way. Go to find. I'm working on an Excel sheet, by the way, which makes it a little easier for me. Okay, little large. Try the next one. Kinlar used the smaller ones. Find next. Why, pray tell, does that say orbs? Oh, that's why. Okay. Not the planet size. That's the Anunnaki. I know the one. Yeah, I'm pretty certain it must have been the Talon. So let's just double check. Kinlar. Yes, I'm just reading through to make sure I get the right answer. Okay, let's see. Nope, that's not them. Now, why, pray tell, would that go missing? You would be amazed how many different races or how many different technological complications I've had lately. There we are. Okay. Cindy. Yeah, it would. The shit, and I bet dollars to donuts when they got a look at it, it had a reflective shell around it. Okay, I would lay odds it did. That being said, I kept overlooking at it, going, where, pray tell, did I put it? Okay, but that ship, okay, I would lay odds, Torian. Okay, and the Torian, and it would. With the field it puts out, it would absolutely shut down 3/4 of what it passed by. This is one of those neat little things I look at when people are telling me, oh, we'll defend ourselves. No, you won't. These guys shut what we rely on as power down without even blinking. And without trying for that matter. But what you're looking at in all likelihood was a Torian ray. It was a Torian starship. And yeah, I know the next question is going to come, so I got to open up the other field. Actually, I think that's in book 1. Let me see here. Get you out of the way. This one. We take a look in this funny little reference book. 22. How the heck did I do that? Apparently read wrong. Torment on Tech Link. Torian, there we are. Bingo. Yeah, the Torians are what the heck is that? Stormbrooding. The Torians are an arachnid appearing race. Okay. Let's get back up where I can see. I really wish I had my 4 monitors back up, but unfortunately that's not doable. So we minimize that. We can close that down because we don't need it. And let's bring this one back up. Okay. But yeah, you're likely looking at a Torian. Where are we? The unknown, what Cindy had been saying here was, this is from Newsweek. Looked like a ball. Here is from the article. The unknown object was moving at the speed of wind. That means it does not have engines. That is, if it is not a drone, not an aircraft, the source continued, adding there was no reason for the alert signal. This craft shut down the entire airspace. Well, I won't argue with you there, Derek. Fortunately, starships don't actually use gasoline. Okay, and what they do use is completely free, and sooner or later, mankind will figure out how to tap into it. But the OTE drive that the starships use, as in the oscillator densification of the tri-transspatial equilarity, is 100% free and completely inexhaustible. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. Reality as I see it anyway. Which, yes, I agree, my reality can be a little screwy on occasion. What do we got here? That's different. Okay, we leave those alone. Got to get out the other one. Pop you in there. And what do we got going on up here? When you think about it, okay, and I know what color those are. Let me just take a look at this little critter. Yes, Shadow, I did go out and get a few extra things. There we go. This one we can start working on as well. Oh, we are going to have a windstorm tonight, it would seem. I don't really have a big problem with. I like the wind. I like the wind, I like the rain, I like the hail. I'm not impressed with the ice. You know, that's just because of the fact that, well, when you've got a leg that pops, not exactly, Cindy. Nuclear fusion, I've actually got to look into a slightly better definition of what nuclear fusion is. Okay, but nuclear fusion takes, as near as I understand it, okay, nuclear fusion turns around and disassembles, it takes all the energy contained inside an item and absorbs it to utilize to drive the power. And that is not quite the way this works. Where am I here? I am looking for, that's black, but I desire not purple. Purple is bad. Well, purple's not bad, but you get the idea. We are looking for espresso. Oh, I was looking at that first. It was blue. I got myself sidetracked. But no, the oscillation of the tri-transempation equipolarity relies on picking up the energy created by the shock wave of electrons leaving one element, leaving one molecule, and heading for another one. So the OTE drive picks up on that shock wave and makes the most of it as it passes along. Okay, but kind of a necessary little commodity. That over there. Those two aren't used yet, so I'm just not interested in it just yet. Oh, there we are. See, I'm taking a look at this. And this works out rather well for me from my standpoint. But no, the fusion drive disassembles things. The OTE drive operates without depleting the energy level at all. Okay, without disassembling anything. It simply works on reactionary energy transfer. You see, when basic physics, I think it's physics, will tell you that when an electron leaves an atom, it'll do that of its own accord, and then it will travel and reconnect with another atom. Well, that's great until you realize that when that happens, there is a whole pile. Like, let's start with the basic line that as far as humans have figured out, and actually it works quite nicely as far as the reference point goes. Okay, there is another type of atom that's actually smaller and far more unstable than hydrogen is. But hydrogen, if you've taken basic science, you have one electron around a hydrogen atom. Okay, but when that electron leaves one hydrogen atom, it leaves behind what I call a null space. Okay, and when that now roaming electron connects with another hydrogen atom, thereby making two electrons going around the nucleus, what you all of a sudden have is a helium atom. But the hydrogen atom is the smallest one that mankind has recognized thus far. Okay, there is another atom smaller than the hydrogen, but to be clear, it's a whole lot more unstable. Okay, and that's because the electrons, instead of leaving, what they do is they leave the hydrogen atom very momentarily and then bounce back to it. Bounce back to it or circle back to it, your call. Okay, but this makes them very unstable form, which can be entertaining to watch, but is very difficult to track. Now, mankind has not developed the technology just yet to be able to track these effectively. Finally picked up another water elemental so I could get it done right. The last one that I had, I ended up having to modify it. Well, more to the point, change the color on it. Okay. Net result, I ended up with a blood elemental. But no, the OTE drive depletes nothing. It literally draws on the shockwave created in null space to power the engine. But of course, you have to take into consideration the fractal inversion in order to slow the system down. Because the OTE drive on its own, without that braking system, would continue to accelerate, nonstop until, never mind until, it would just continue to accelerate. Now, most people will not wrap their brain around that, in all fairness. Okay. And no, this does not mean I think I'm special. In all fairness, I quite often think I'm completely off kilter. But the reality behind it is that when you're looking at, I went and got myself sidetracked here. That does happen, by the way. What do we got here? No, in all fairness, Derek, I still don't. Okay, and here's why. I've got a computer that's trying to die on me, and technology is not something I get along with. I've been thinking about getting somebody to help me set up StreamYard, but the reality of it is that computers and I do not get along well. Okay, that's the way it's always been, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. But I work with what I've got. So no, I don't have Super Chat set up. I also have to talk to somebody about setting up, there's a neat little program people keep mentioning called Buy Me a Coffee. I haven't got that set up yet either. And again, it's because computers and I just argue. Oh, my apologies there. David S., how you doing? This is a water elemental. Okay, this one's a pretty simple one, because all I'm doing is taking the form and giving it the right color. But there is no difference to it. I ended up doing another one, the same figure, but I ended up doing it. Guess I should have it up there where we can actually see it. I ended up painting another one red. Okay. And of course, as I've told you, you know what, Derek? I have no doubt they would for most people. Every time, and this is, this isn't a question of arguing the point. This is a question of reality. Every company without exception that has offered to do something for me, without exception, whether it's government, a professional company, even when it's in their interest, never have they done what they said. Okay. Now, this does not mean they don't do it for other people. This means I've never had it happen for me. Okay. I can't tell you how many companies I've actually relied on. And the fact of the matter is, if I don't understand it, because I'm the only one in the house to operate it, if I run into a problem, well, all of a sudden I end up with the system going down, which is what happens from time to time. Will I eventually get things straightened out? Certainly. The reality is, Cindy, where it very definitely there, Derek. Where it comes to painting, okay, and I kid you not, I literally saw this myself. Somebody took, I have no idea who the painter was, but they took a standard white canvas, took off-white paint, painted the entire canvas in white, put a baseboard wood frame around it, and called it whiteout. They sold the thing for $1 million. Now, to my way of thinking, I wouldn't pay a plug nickel for it. Well, I might if I was running short on canvas. But this is just so when you're talking about not being able to paint, okay, the question is, are you able to paint well enough for you to be content? Okay. Like, I am not a good painter by any functional stretch in my eyes, but I do paint well enough to get the point across. And now it's just a question of doing exactly what I'm aiming for. And I'll show you a couple of others here in a minute. Well, I've been working on a couple of others. It's just this seems to take dominant precedence right now. But no, never sell yourself short. I've had people tell me they can't paint, they can't sing, they can't dance. The question is not whether you can. The question is whether or not you can dance well enough for you, or if you're making the mistake of buying into somebody else's idea. Where are we here? I'm not entirely certain what you're referring to there, Henry. But if I'm right, it does sound a staggering amount like it. The thing I look at is this. Okay, when I'm painting, when I'm writing, I do it to my specs. Okay, I ended up actually letting one person go. Where are we? No, but they accept them for dinner. Okay, it's funny. It depends. I shouldn't say they don't. Voices is asking, do demons and other spirits accept animal and human sacrifice as payment for favors? Oh, I absolutely agree with you there, Henry. It makes sense from that standpoint. The issue around demons, okay, souls are not in any community that I'm aware of. They are not a commodity. Okay. Well, I guess technically they are. Slave trading is alive and well. But you're talking about very specific individuals. So do some accept them? Yes. But can they grant the favors that they're talking about granting most of the time? No. And that's where things get really complicated. Because who are you going to report to? Well, I sold this guy's soul, and he said he'd make me a millionaire. He didn't. And if you will, the powers that be will look at you and go, well, you probably shouldn't have made that deal then. Okay. And whatever you do, don't make that deal again. Because there is a saying that goes, the piper will have his dues. And what that boils down to is exactly what Satan came here to try and explain to people. If you're going to give your word, if you're going to make a contract with somebody, make absolutely certain that you follow through with it and that you follow your word, that you live up to your word. Okay. Now, still got a little to do there, but I need finger grips. So we take that and we pop that in there, move that one over there. And now, what are we looking at here? The reality of it is, okay, I gotta find that. I need my espresso. I think I've got a different color. That's gold, don't need that. Cashmere tan. Those are green colors, those are yellow. What's that? Green, purple, bright umber, which is a cute color, but not quite what I need. More purple. And purple there too. We have a lot of different color paints here, in case you hadn't noticed. Yep, we'll go with that. Okay, this, when you look at the different types of transactions that can be made, people in certain areas, people will buy anything. See, another one like Tormenon, they will not buy souls. They don't deal in souls, but they will buy bodies. I mean, it's kind of neat when you actually start to understand these things. I call it understanding. Some people call it my imagination gone right out of hand. Okay. From my perspective, it's more an issue of, okay, what am I working with? And maybe I should move that down here so I can find it. What do you think? Take a look at that. We'll grab that one. If you're still in the house there, Shadow, this is the other one I'm working on. Okay. He was white when I started today, so we ought to make pretty good headway here. But this one I'm not actually having to use toothpicks with because of the size of him. But no, there are all kinds of things that humans would consider absolutely heinous when it's done to them. But the sad part is, many times humans are doing the same thing to other races. Okay. I mean, you think about it. We buy and sell cats and dogs as pets. Okay. And other races buy and sell humans as pets. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, you're always busy. This is not a bad thing, Nathan. But with that in mind, by the way, I enjoyed the show last night, I think. The show went really well. The problem was I got tired. And I can't do much about that. But let's see, where are we? This is Nathan. Here we are. The Quantum Show. And yeah, I did manage to get back on there the other day, which worked out really well as far as I was concerned. Don't know what he thought about it, but he's in the chat room. He can decide that. And there is a link. Okay. Now Cindy's asking how many human ET races are here on Earth. I'd have to go through and actually do a head count, but I'd be inclined to say that we are probably looking at somewhere in excess of 50 or 60. Okay, probably more than that. But bear in mind, I'm only working with 107 that I've actually documented. Okay, so, of those, probably half of them, maybe more, are actually humanoid, as in bipedal, 2 legs, 2 arms, okay, without a tail. That's why I call them humanoid, because they look very similar to humans. Okay, but do I know an exact head count? No, absolutely not. Not a problem there, Nathan. Where it comes to the Atlanta show, I absolutely agree with you. If when, let me know when you're planning on doing it. Okay, you do it on a Thursday, and I'll definitely tell you you're on your own. But I think it would be a great idea. There's a lot of things that people don't realize, a lot of misconceptions that people are operating under regarding Atlantis, regarding what happened and what was going on, and what the people were like. Okay, but now, am I going to sit here and tell anybody that I am absolutely the authority on it? No. I'll let somebody else decide on that. Because from my way of thinking, the moment you start thinking you know everything, you basically have just forgotten the whole ball of wax. And now, mind you, that is just my own personal opinion on the thing. Okay, and you can do with that what you will. Where are we here? Yeah, that becomes kind of an entertaining little issue. Sometimes, especially in your show, especially in your show, Nathan, you start off in one direction, you end up somewhere over in the South Pacific. Right. I have the same problem. Oh, Cindy, that's the easy one. Hands down, the most human-looking ET are the Mobians. They live on a planet in the exact same orbit as Earth, on the far side of the sun. Okay, so they are always running in direct opposition to Earth. They are the 100% most human-looking off-worlders, primarily because they originated on Earth and colonized Mobius about 40,000 years ago. Well, about 50,000 years ago. And then wiped themselves out by an accident about 40,000 ago. So, bar none, they are definitively the most human-looking. There are a number that are very similar. Okay, but those ones are, literally, with a little bit of tweaking, you can actually transplant Mobian organs into the human genome. And the reason for that is because they are the same original genome. Okay. Yes, some of the antibodies have certainly changed because of the fact that the antibodies are different on the planet they're from. And bear in mind, they've been there 50,000 years. Roughly. I can't give you an exact time of transfer, but I can tell you when they transferred, they took the entire load, like they took a whole pile of them with them. Okay. So no, the other side of that is that humans they've achieved space travel multiple times in the past. Yeah, Nathan's just asking, has anybody here on Earth ever tried to leave messages in orbit for the Mobians to find? I can see leaving them a rock with a note attached to in orbit for them to run across. As far as I'm aware there, Nathan, the answer is no. Okay. The reality is the Mobians come here relatively frequently, and therefore it's not really that hard to track them down if you know what you're looking for. Okay. Now, I just made it a point of not bothering telling people, and I got in trouble for this one the other day, where I refused to tell people if somebody I know is an off-worlder. Okay, I'm just not going to go there. Because for me, there are too many things that happen in a negative sense to people who are identified. Okay, like it gets to be way too complicated in a lot of ways. So what I came to the conclusion of is that I was not going to be outing anybody. And yes, I get flack for it and get told, "Oh well, you're not saying anything because you don't know." And I go, well, that's a good way to look at it and enjoy yourself with it. I used to question a lot about what I was seeing. But the reality of it is, my father on his deathbed corroborated the whole 9 yards. And that was pretty much where I gave up the whole idea of worrying about whether what I was seeing was real. It just seemed to me, why bother worrying about it? I like the way it was put to me, though. No, the Atlanteans were not Mobians. Okay. The Atlanteans are another race altogether. Okay. And as has been surmised by some peoples, okay, the Atlanteans could not, they have one, as a matter of fact, that reminds me. Thank you so much for bringing that little topic into my mind. Atlanteans had one neat little thing going for them. Okay, beyond the rest of it, Atlanteans also had a third lung. Now, that third lung was designed for one reason: to breathe underwater. Okay, Mobians don't have that. You take a Mobian. What did I just do with it? There it is. Yep. Atlanteans they've got a third lung. Mobians don't. No, Derek, that whole concept. Take everything you've heard, in my opinion, take everything you've heard about the royal family or any of the major moguls, any of them that are reptilian. That whole misdirected information comes from 1977-78 to 1982. During the reign of the series and the movie V. Okay, regardless of what you've seen on television or on photos where, oh look, it's got reptilian eyes. Okay, take all of that. Yeah, well, it was a fantastic series, David. It really was. It's one of the few series I actually watched and went out of my way to keep watching. The other one I really enjoyed was one called the Bermuda Triangle, or Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. But no, and I cannot tell you how many times I hear, people asking that question. And I understand why the question. But no, reptilians on the whole, first of all, it would be. Funny thing there, Cindy. Well, we'll get back to that in half a second. On the whole, if reptilians wanted to, and I mean any one of the races of reptilians, if they really desired to take the planet, they would not do it by going through a crippled political system. It is too clumsy, too prone to problems, and therefore they just won't bother with it. But yeah, a third lung would come in real handy. But here's the real neat kicker there. I think that was Cindy's brain like a sieve. It was a fabulous show. I always got a kick out, and I'd forget Robert Englund played that real ditzy reptilian. Okay, I always got a kick out of him because he went outside the norm. Because not all of any race is good, bad, ugly, or beautiful. Okay, and he just showed a different side of those people. It was just absolutely great from my eyes. But, like I said, I cannot tell you the number of people that I've talked to that are still convinced that the queen was a reptile. Okay. A little cold on occasion, certainly, but a reptile not. So I hope that answers that, but it's certainly not going to put it to rest. The funny thing about cancer there, Cindy, do you have any idea what the oldest recorded case of somebody having cancer was? I don't mean the person that was the oldest. I mean, how many years ago they discovered cancer in an organism? And that goes to any of you, if anybody knows. Because I will, after I give it a couple of minutes here for people to think about, I will certainly come out and answer it. One of the things we have to remember, and I'm working on multiple different pictures here, but let me move that aside for a second. Get these paints up because I'm working with them. And like I said, I move stuff around like this because, well, frankly, I have to. No, the neat part is my son actually had a third lung that lasted for the longest time. Most humans have a third lung when they're still in utero to enable them to breathe the amniotic fluid. Okay, but normally it gets absorbed right back into the lung, or right back into the body, or early on. They found the paleontologists found cancer in, I believe it was the bone of an Allosaurus. Okay, so we are talking about a disease that has been around for in excess of 120 million years. This is not something that has come about by mankind. Okay, now granted, the toxins that mankind is using are certainly not helping the situation. But cancer was in the human body, was in the body long, long, long ago. Yeah, it is. Yes, the fossils of pre-hominids. Okay, they found bones that had cancer cells in them. Now, when you start looking at that, all of a sudden cancer takes on a whole new field. Okay, now what do I got here? I've got, those have to be tracked down. And of course, we will have to do Y12. Y12 is the short version of my saying Yldrbac, Book 12, The Birth of the Wolf Pack, or The Return to Paradise. Now, with that in mind, holy mackerel, we are that late. Did today ever go by in a hurry? I'll tell you, talk about fast. But with that in mind, as I've said before, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I am really, really happy with the support I get here and with the way you guys, do interact with each other. Okay. If you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and then share the daylights out of it. Even if you don't like somebody. As a matter of fact, if you don't like them, share the daylights out of it and send them over. We could always use the people. But with that in mind, I will be back in about an hour. Only when I get back, I will be reading, part of The End of an Epoch, which is the sequel to The Birth of the Wolf Pack. Okay, The Birth of the Wolf Pack absolutely is available, and I'll get to that when I get back. Okay, but I'll be back in about an hour, and we'll be entering into the end of an epoch. Until then, guys, thank you so much again for joining us. And until then, we will meet again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.